Last week, Ducati announced a new, updated version of their super popular naked bike, the Monster, for 2021. And I think it's fair to say that much like the new Yamaha MT-09 that we saw last month, the reaction has been a bit mixed. The Monster has always been a big seller, with more than 350,000 produced since it was introduced back in 1993, and it's easy to see why. Essentially, it offers an affordable and accessible way to get a piece of Italian exotica with some of the looks and performance characteristics that trickle down from their more premium machines that are out of reach for most of us. But this new version, well, here are some of the comments from a photo I posted on YouTube yesterday. It's lost its monsterness, it just looks like a Japanese bike now. It does not fit the Monster tag. I like the bike, but it's just not at Monster anymore. I like the old look, to be honest, beefy and muscular. Now look, that's not to say it's all negative, but it's probably about a 50-50 split. Personally, I come down on the positive side. I actually think it's a change for the good, and to me it still fits the Monster ethos perfectly. So in today's video we're going to look over all of the changes for 2021, and I'll tell you more about why I like it. But before we get started, if you're new here and you want to see more of the latest new bike announcements for 2021, then please do remember to hit subscribe. There are still plenty to cover over the next few months, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see those videos as soon as they go live. Most of the changes to the Monster are non-controversial. The 937cc L-twin engine gets Euro 5 emissions approval, and with that extra 100 cc's or so versus the Monster 821 it replaces, it gets a decent bump in torque of 7 Newton meters and produces it 1,250 RPM lower in the rev range, with 93 Newton meters now produced at 6,500 RPM. Ducati claim an improvement across the whole rev range too, especially in the low to mid range, which they say leads to a richer and more satisfying delivery, although peak power remains roughly the same, with an extra couple of horsepower at 111 at the same 9,250 RPM. The ergonomics have been updated as well, with a more forgiving riding position, owing to the bars being shifted closer to the rider and the foot pegs being lowered to open up the leg angle. The new Monster ought to be more stable and maneuverable at low speeds too, with a 7-degree increase in steering angle, and shorter riders will appreciate that despite a seat height of 820mm, a low seat option brings it down to 800, with a suspension lowering kit taking it down to 775mm. And that's on top of a narrow waist intended to help riders get both their feet down at a standstill. Tech has also had a massive update, with an up and down quick shifter now fitted as standard, a 4.3-inch colour TFT dash, 3 riding modes, adjustable cornering, ABS, traction control, wheelie control, and a launch control feature. All of these changes are for the good, but ultimately the Monster needed to go on a massive diet to keep it competitive. The KTM 890 Ducati, for example, has really set the standard in the sports naked sector, and I was lucky enough to borrow one for a couple of weeks earlier this year. The 120 horsepower parallel twin is so satisfying under acceleration. The brakes are super sharp Brembo style Emmers, it's suspended beautifully on their in-house adjustable fork and shock, and it rolls on super sticky, almost slick Michelin Power Cup 2s. But it all comes in a packet that weighs 166 kilograms dry, and that's a good 15 kg less than the dry weight of the outgoing Monster 821. So even with the boost in torque, extra tech, and tweaks to the geometry of the new Monster, it would have been way off the pace if that massive gap in weight hadn't been addressed. But thankfully they have, with the new 2021 Monster matching the KTM for dry weight at the exact same 166 kilograms. 2.4 kilograms have been shaved off the engine. The new subframe is made with a glass fiber reinforced polymer to save another 1.9 kilograms. The rims are 1.7 kilograms lighter, and the new swing arm saves another 1.6. But the biggest contributing factor is ditching the much-loved trellis frame that was present on every previous iteration of the Monster and has been a signature design feature in the history of Ducati, in favour of an aluminium frame front frame, resulting in a 4.5 kilogram saving. The new front frame weighs just 3 kilograms, as opposed to the 7.5 of the trellis front frame on the Monster 821. That's a 60% saving, which is huge. And that's the crux of the debate around this bike. The trellis frame was one of the aesthetic features that really defined the Monster and set it apart from other naked motorcycles. It's the common theme that runs through most of those negative comments that I talked about earlier. But personally, I think that's misguided. Remember what I said about the Monster offering a more accessible price and riding experience than their sports bikes, but still with that exotic Italian vibe. This aluminium front frame design trickles down from the Panigale V4. Panigales before it also had trellis frames until they realized they were super heavy and there was a better option. Yes, the trellis had a distinctive and aesthetically pleasing appearance, but it looks like this design will become a signature Ducati feature too, as it's already been used on the Panigale V4s, the Street Fighter, the new Multistrada V4, and now here. And on top of that, the Monster will feel the performance benefits too. Power isn't really up this year despite that big bump in capacity, and Euro 5 emissions regulations will have something to do with that. But with a 14.5 kilogram dry weight saving, power to weight will be improved and it'll feel like a much sharper bike, almost as sharp as a scalpel. The aesthetic argument is still strong, and I'll concede that the trellis frame gave the Monster a certain je ne sais quoi, but the rest of the 2021 bike has been thoroughly modernized. There's a new headlight with a ring-style DRL, front indicators that are neatly integrated into the bodywork, and much sharper lines to the tank and tail section. It's way more in line with the current design language of Ducati and brings it up to date with the likes of the Panigales, Street Fighter, and Multistrada. Wouldn't it just be a bit weird to do that and then stick with the more old school looking trellis frame? That sort of decision starts to lead you into retro territory, styling decisions made at the detriment of performance. And that's not what the Monster's about, that's the Scrambler range. This is meant to be the smaller naked sibling of the big bikes, with the tech, design and performance trickling down into an attainable package, and it does just that. So that's my take. It'll take a lot to beat the riding experience of the 890 Duke, but it looks like Ducati are having a proper good go. I'll certainly try to get my hands on one in the new year to find out. In the meantime, I'd love to know what you think of it. Should they have kept the trellis and shifted the ethos of the Monster lineup into a more retro machine? Or do you prefer this aluminium front frame modern take? And what about the overall look of the bike? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.